heck is going on with my chair? Oh, that's a second. Put my foot somewhere. All right, folks. So welcome to the YouTube channel. If you're not already, subscribe. And I'm going to keep this chapter, I guess, what is this? Section, playlist, a playlist. I'm going to keep this playlist on all the updates that we're doing to LEADNAV GPS. We're going to kick this off with LEADNAV GPS version 5.24. So the first thing that you'll see in the list of changes is we increased the tracking update rate and the Iridium network is improved. So what that means is, if you're not familiar, LEADNAV offers peer-to-peer tracking of you and your friends in the field. We do that through two different ways. We do it through the cell network or Wi-Fi, which is available when you're on the grid, and we do it through our satellite equipment, through our Iridium equipment, which gives peer-to-peer off-the-grid tracking of everybody in the field with those units. Now the two units mingle, so meaning if you have folks run around in a cell environment, they can see and you can see them if you're off the grid, if you have the additional satellite equipment that makes that happen. So with this first update, we were trying to improve the way we run tracking on the standard level. There's two different levels or speeds of your tracking peer-to-peer. You have standard and rapid. So in standard, it was set to about 5 to 10 minutes. Now, with 5 to 10 minutes, that's if you're off the grid, that means with a good satellite connection, a current satellite connection. So if you miss a window in that 5 to 10, it gets rolled to a certain amount of time and it attempts to make a connection again and share and receive that tracking information. And it goes through that cycle. So at a 5 to 10 standard rate, you could see, if you're in a port, if you're in heavy mountains, you could see a range of, I mean, heck, you could see anywhere from 5 to 10, or you could see 10 to 30. Because if you dip down in the valleys, you miss your window in that standard mode, it could get bumped and extend the process. So a lot of our folks were opting to run in rapid mode. Rapid mode keeps the data connection open for as long as we were allowed to keep it open. It basically keeps the data connection open. It dials up and it keeps the connection. I think it's just shy of 10 minutes. And at 10 minutes, we hibernate the connection. We shut down the connection and we give it a little bit of rest for a minute or two. And then we dial and we make the connection again. And during that connection in rapid, it is send, receive, send, receive. I mean, you could get updates every 15 to 30 seconds if you have a good view of the sky, a good view of the satellite that's going overhead. So what we did with this update, we wanted to make it more usable for the folks to want to run in standard, because if you are always running in rapid mode, it's tying up the satellite connection, which also eliminates all the other cool stuff that you can do with the Iridium satellite equipment, which is message and make phone calls. If you keep it in rapid mode, you're tying up that connection, and nothing can come in or out as far as other messages. So if somebody's trying to message you and you're driving around in rapid mode, you're tying up the network and they won't be able to get anything into you until that little break we take in the connection, just under 10 minutes. So it's awesome if you want to have the fastest updates on each other possible. If you're in if you're trying to recover somebody or it's a rescue operation, you want to just get updates as fast as possible on that guy or girl, on that person, then obviously rapid's the mode you want to run in, but you don't want to always run in that mode. Otherwise you will not be able to communicate to each other. So we took standard mode in this last update and we dialed it up a little bit. So we took it, I believe, again, from 5 to 10 minute updates, and we took it down, I believe it's now to around 2 to 5 minutes. So it's still now faster than most of your outside or other fleet trackers available to you, or other tracking devices that you can get are typically all 5 minutes. This, you could see an update rate of running standard every 2 to 5 minutes, leaning more towards 2, but it really depends on the unit that is sending at the time and receiving versus the other units that are in the field sending, receiving. You know, if one's sending right at that 2-minute mark and the other one's sending at the top of the minute or whatever, you know, you could have a little bit of a, you know, that's why we give you that window basically to be in that 2 to 5 minutes, because it kind of can, depending on when you turn them on, when they're sending or receiving. You get the idea. So anyway, we turned it down, or we turned it up a good bit in this last update. So folks running our Iridium equipment can run in standard mode and see how different that is compared to what it was before. I mean, we're trying to get you to want to run in standard mode, so you still have the fastest update possible, but you can still, in emergency, or still communicate when needed. So if you're running our satellite Iridium equipment and service, you can check out that feature, run standard, tell us how it does compared to before. So the next thing we did was enable markers for ProPack subscribers. So everybody that invests in our subscription to ProPack, we opened up all the marker packs, the individual marker packs, the additional packs to you under that pro rate. Easy. Otherwise, you can still buy those marker packs at their individual rate, you know, one-time purchase. I want to say they're like $5 each. The next thing is we updated the default track name format. So just a little bit of the default name that we give the tracks when you start recording. If you don't opt to enter in your own name, we just do a little bit of adjustment to the way it's naming that track default. All right, so that wraps up all the feature changes on the 5.24 update that you just got. So let's go into some of the fixes. We fixed the inconsistent waypoint dropper to 000 when in PreRunner. No more spider webbing in PreRunner. Desert racers, let us know how this performs. Okay, so this was a big one. This spider webbing, you'll hear people call it, it's been around for a while. Originally, we were seeing a lot in heavy terrain, in mountainous terrain, when the connection between your GPS antenna and LEADNAV gets a little funky. The default place to drop a marker is 00 lat and long. That's coordinates in this world. And if you don't know where that falls, you can look it up, but it falls somewhere off the coast of Africa, out in the ocean, right? So a lot of times when our folks are running PreRunner, we've been seeing this for years. It's been around. We know it has been. But while you're running the PreRunner bar out with the ProPack and you go to drop a waypoint on the fly and you get done for the day, you'll see, you know, out of a full day's pre-run, you'll see 3 or 4 maybe, depending on the terrain or depending on what's going on or the file. We always knew it would snap a couple points out to Africa. Again, it's annoying. At the time, we could just kind of drag those points back in Route Editor back to where they belong, between the points where they belong, and it's just more of a pain than anything. But I will say we couldn't really figure out what was causing it. I mean, we had ideas on what was causing it. We tried to fix it a couple times, but it wasn't until we just got our new coder on board, who was working on this, who took a look at it, and he had a different take on it. What was happening was with these massive route files, like say the last Baja 1000, where you're working with hundreds of thousands of points, it was more, in his eyes, of a delay. Depending on what you have going on, when you dropped it in the window wasn't given enough time to process the coordinate. And by the time you hit save, it was confused and it would drop it out there. So it was less to do with the GPS fix, because we always knew like your position was always okay. Your position didn't jump out to Africa. The point dropped out to Africa. So he figured out that it was just in the delay running these massive files. When the PreRunner bar's out, when the waypoint dropper's out and you're moving and doing all this stuff, that sometimes it would get overwhelmed and it wouldn't get the coordinate string right and it would drop it out to Africa. Anyway, it should be fixed. This is a big deal. And again, all you desert racers that run ProPack and do a lot of pre-running should appreciate this. And I'm interested with the folks getting ready for King of Hammers. You're going to be out in the mountains. Run this through the ringer and tell us if it's an improvement. And let me know. Just hit us up if you still see some issues with that. But hopefully this killed a long time bug. All right, so the next one, fix delete selected, wasn't deleting all selected. All right, again, this was a kind of a processing speed kind of thing. If you're selecting multiple markers to delete them, like say you want to wipe out erasing all the rally markers or VCP, the checkpoints, and you wanted to type in VCP, and you selected like 500 of these points and hit delete, well, sometimes it was still working, and you would go back and there'd still be some VCPs on the list, and you're like, well, did delete them all? It took a couple tries to delete all the markers that you selected. This should be fixed now. The next thing is fix map pop-up cutoff bottom edge. Now this was just a visual graphic thing in our download manager. The bottom edge was cut off. Fix readability with light dark mode in iOS 13. As you all know, Apple just came out with their light dark mode, and we just had to make some of the fonts and everything else comply with that so it looks good. Fix search case sensitivity and auto-capitalization. In the search bar for the markers, if you weren't in lowercase or uppercase and the marker was labeled in uppercase, lowercase, and you want to search for it, it wouldn't show up. So we got rid of the case sensitivity and all that good stuff. So now in search, the search bar works. You don't have to be that specific with the character. Fix MGRS compiler antics. All right, so that's big coder talk for in MGRS format, military grid reference system coordinate format. If you're running that and you're going to drop a marker and you want to edit the coordinate display or the MGRS coordinates to snap that marker to that position, something happened along the lines with updating that display or the code that it was causing a crash. We fixed that. Properly format distances. All right, so basically on big races when you're track recording over a certain amount of kilometers and everything else, it was just a display issue. It was displaying the distance incorrectly, so we fixed that. Fix magenta flashing, whatever that is. So the magnifying glass, when you're holding on the screen or holding on a point and you want to move in Route Editor, a serpentine or a waypoint on the display, you're getting like this weird flash going on. That was, again, some update with Apple. We adjusted that, so now visually it looks good. And you got the nice clean magnifying glass. Fix wavering route length when zooming in and out. Okay, so a few of our users hit us up with this last month. I can't believe we never really noticed it, but thank you to the few folks that hit us up on our community forum about this. So they noticed that when you were in Route Editor, at the bottom of the screen, we give the total distance of the route. Well, you're in Route Editor. When you zoomed out, the total distance of the route would change. We looked into it. Usually at full zoom, it was correct, but as you zoomed out, it would get shorter. So what was happening was that we eliminate point density on the screen as you zoom out, because in these big route files, these big races, these big events with hundreds of thousands of points, as you zoom out, you want to look at the bigger picture. We minimize what's on the screen to help the processor run a little bit better. So what was happening was when we were zooming out, it was getting rid of points, angles in the line, and in turn it was shortening the distance that was being put out. So we changed where we pull that distance from, so now it's accurate at any zoom level. All right, that wraps up 5.24, and if anybody still sees any issues testing that out, let us know. Hit us up on our community forum or respond in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe to our channel. You're going to be seeing a lot more content on the versions that we're releasing and how-to videos.